All right, boys and girls, today we're starting a new chapter, chapter 10. So we're on lesson 10.1 on page 561, and it is telling time to the minute. Okay, we're unlocking the problem. Groundhog Day is February 2nd. People say that if a groundhog can see its shadow on that morning, winter will last another 6 weeks. The clock shows the time when the groundhog saw its shadow. What time is it? Okay, here's a couple things to look at. Underline the question. I've already done that. And then it says, where will you look to find the time? Okay, so we have to look at our clock, obviously, right? And then we're going to look at the hour and minute hand. And you just want to put hour in minute. That's fine. Put a dot on my eye. There we go. The hour and the minute hand. Okay. So, look at the time on the clock face on the side. What does the hour hand tell us? So if we look here, two things to remember. Hour hand is the short one. The minute hand is the longer one. So we have to make sure we know those things. The hour is the shorter hand. So the hour hand, what does it tell us? Well, here's the hour. And it tells us that it's between 7 and 8 o'clock. So it's after 7. Okay. The hour hand tells us it's after 7. We'll just write after 7. Or we could have written between 7 and 8 o'clock, something like that. Okay, what does the minute hand tell us? So we'll come back over to the clock. I'll erase this stuff. There we go. Okay, so here's our minute hand. That's the longer one. And when we look at a clock, when we count the minutes, and they started it for us here, okay, they count by fives. And the reason they count by fives, we look at these little tally marks. These are minutes. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and every 5 minutes, that one's a little darker than the others. You'll notice this one is a little darker than these other 4. Okay, all right. And that's why they count by fives with the minutes. Now the hours are the ones with the big numbers on them. 12 o'clock hour, 1 o'clock hour, 2 o'clock hour, 3 o'clock hour, and so on. The minutes, sorry about that, the minutes are the little dashes in between. So we can count by each one of the big numbers here is actually 5 minutes at a time. And so that's what they're counting on the side then. So we had 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. Now I know most of you know this already, but there are a few people that don't, and that's why we're covering it. So the minute hand tells us 35 minutes. And we're going to say 35 minutes, and I'm going to abbreviate MIN period. 35 minutes. Okay, so in 1 minute, and this is what I kind of already explained here, but it says in 1 minute, the minute hand moves from one mark to the next on a clock. It takes 5 minutes for the minute hand to move from one number to the next number. Okay, so the minute hand is moving from mark to mark every minute. Boom, 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 boom. And then it takes 5 minutes to move from one number to the next. Minutes, right? Okay. You can count on by fives to tell time to 5 minutes, and we did that on the big clock. So we're going to count 0 at 12, and all that means is you start here at 12, and that's 0, and then you move and count by 5. So we start at 0, 5, 10, 15, and now we're just counting by fives. 20, and then 25, and you should know these by now. 30 and 35. Is that my last one? It is. So what time did the groundhog see its shadow? Well, we have to go back up here. We know it was after the 7 o'clock hour, so it's 7 something. It was not quite to the 8 o'clock hour yet, right? So it's 7 something, and then the minutes were 35. So the time is 7:35. Okay. Now, one time where there is one area where it gets a little tricky sometimes, and that's when if the minute hand is pointing up to the top of the hour, then your hour hand, for example, it might be looking like it's pointing right at the 10, but you have to use some kind of common sense. If you see the minute hand here, you know it's just a couple minutes away from hitting the next hour. So that would mean that this hour hand, while it looks like it's at 10, in 2 more minutes it will be on 10. So my time I wrote was more like 9:58 or something like that, okay? So don't let that hour hand confuse you, especially when the minute hand is right up near the top of the hour. Okay? So it's written as 7:35. We read it as 7:35. We have to write the words. Another way to read it is 35 minutes after 7. Okay. Let's go to the next page here. Whoops, how about one page? There we go. Time to the minute. We can count by 5s and 1s. Okay, 5 minutes after the hour. Look at the time on the clock face. What does the hour hand tell you? So the hour hand, again, this is a shorter one. It's between the 1 and the 2, right? So it's going to be after 1 o'clock. And then what does the minute hand tell us? And the minute hand is the longer one. And again, we'll count by 5s, but notice it doesn't end on that number. So that means we'll stop counting by 5s when we hit this one instead. Okay, so they did the jumps for us. There's 5, 10, 15, 20. And now we have to start counting by 1s. 21, 22, 23. So the minute is 23. 23 minutes. Okay, so just like I did, count on by 5s and 1s from the 12 on the clock to where the minute hand is pointing. Alright, and then when a clock shows 30 or fewer minutes after the hour, you can read the time as that number of minutes after the hour. So let's first of all figure out this time. We know it was after 1, so it's 1 something, and we figured it was 23 minutes. 1:23. Okay, we can read it after the hour. That was the example I gave here. So 1:23 can be read 23 minutes after 1. And that only works when the minute hand is before the 6 there, okay? So when it's over on this side, you can read it as however many minutes after the hour. Again, we can read it as 1:23. So if you write it in words, it looks like this, 1:23. Okay? Alright, 5 minutes, find minutes before the hour. Okay, again, we look at the clock, and we have to tell the hour and the minute. Okay, so, sorry about that. The hour, again, it's the smaller hand, and it's between 2 o'clock and 3 o'clock. So it's after 2 o'clock. Or we could say even between 2 and 3, and then we also have to look at the minutes. Okay, and here the minute hand is way over here. Now we could use our other strategy, starting here and go 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, and then count 41, 42, 43. Okay, so that's 43 minutes. We could do it that way, or if it makes sense to you, you still start at the 12 and you count backwards. 5, 10, get that in there, 10, there we go, 15, 16, and 17. So if we're telling time before the hour, the minute hand tells us 17 minutes before the next hour. So in 17 minutes, it'll get to the next hour. We know it's sometime between 2 and 3, so it's officially going to be 2:43. Okay, but we can read it as minutes before the hour, and in that case, it's 17 minutes before 3 o'clock. It's not 3 o'clock yet, it's 2:43. 2:43. But in 17 minutes, it'll be 3 o'clock. Now, if we want to write it as this time up here, it's 2:40, F-O-R-T-Y, 3. Also known as, what I wrote in red, 17 minutes before 3 o'clock. Error alert. This is a big one right here. It says, remember that the time after the hour uses the previous hour. So in our example, it's 43 minutes after 2. Most people wouldn't say it that way, though. Remember, if it's before that 6 o'clock, or that 6, the minute hand before the 6, if it's in this area, then a lot of times people will say after the hour, 10 minutes after 7, or something like that. Okay? And the time before the hour uses the next hour. So in my example here, it was 43 minutes after 2, or 17 minutes before 3. Okay. Let's look at share and show real quick. Get a little extra practice. It says, how would you use counting on the minute hand to find the time on the clock? Write the time. So again, if we look at our hour hand, we see it's between 1 and 2. So it's after 1 o'clock. It's not quite 2 o'clock. So our time's going to be 1 something. And then we can use our counting of starting here, and then we make our jump. 5, 10, 15, 20. Okay, 20. It doesn't go to the 5, though, the minute hand. Remember, our minute hand's this one, right? It doesn't go to that 5. It actually stops at the minute before it. So we go 21, 22, 23, 24. So the minute is 24. Then makes our time, instead of, makes it 1:24. Okay. All right. Write the time. It also says write one way you can read the time. Okay, that's the one where you're saying 10 minutes after 7 or 10 minutes before 8 or something like that, okay? So make sure you write the time and then write one way you can read the time as before an hour or after an hour, all right? After you do share and show, please bring it up so we can check it. Work hard, boys and girls, persevere, and show integrity. As always, this is Mr. P, and I